Okay, this is our review video for topic 1.1, developments in East Asia during the global tapestry from 1200 to 1450. And our overall learning target, essential question that we're focusing on is how did the Song Empire of East Asia not only gain power, but also maintain it? So this is the global tapestry that we're studying in this unit. And essentially, we've dropped in the world in 1200, and we just kind of stop and see what's going on. So we're visiting different regions such as East Asia, Dar es Salaam, South and Southeast Asia, the Sahel and the Swahili coast of sub Saharan Africa, the Americas, and later Europe. And we're seeing not only how they governed, but also how they promoted survival and prosperity for their people. So today's lesson focuses on East Asia, especially Song China. So when we talk about East Asia and we focus on China in general, there's some things that we have to make sure that we always remember. China's always going to be ruled by family rule, dynasties. When you talk about the different dynasties, such as the Tang, the Song, the Yuan, that is a family rule. And that family comes to power, ending a period of warfare called usually the Warring States period, and establishes their power and rules. And then they fall. China is also going to have to deal with providing for the largest population in world history. Even during the tapestry period, a majority of people lived in China and worked and lived and died there. And finally, because of its isolation during the prelude period, China has a very unique culture that's very different. So when we look at the Song, we understand that the Song is actually two dynasties. Originally, when it was founded in 960 to 1126, okay, it was called the Northern Song because it owned the land in the Yellow River Valley, as shown by the map on the left. Now, after dealing with some invasion, mostly the Qin people, okay, the Song lost the Yellow River Valley and was pushed down into what's known as the Southern Song. Now, is this something testable? Not really, but just keep in mind if you see two maps like this, it's usually the Song. Now, what do you need to learn from this lesson? Well, overall, we need to make sure that we understand how the Song dynasty of East Asia not only gained power, but also maintained power. Now, inside of that, we want to know how they not only unified, but also ruled and provided peace for their populations, how they supported innovation and the collection of knowledge, and finally, how did they promote trade? Because ultimately, we're going to take a big look at the states of the global tapestry and compare them. And these are ways that we're going to essentially do that. So when we focus, first of all, on how they gained power, as I said before, they ended a very violent period called the Warring States period, in which there was no unity. They brought unity to China and they began to build an efficient government. So our first big focus question is, how did the Song government unify, rule, and provide for their population? Well, we begin with unification. And the Song has a problem. At its very beginning, the Song was very religiously diverse. You had the upper class and the scholar gentry that very much backed Buddhism, or excuse me, Confucianism. You had the merchants and the lower class being Buddhists. And then you had a large but very vocal type of people who were Taoist. So, what the Song did to create this unity is they created a synced or a blended religion. This religion was called Neo Confucianism. Neo Confucianism, defined, is a new ethical system that emerged in China that combined the rational thinking and moral ideas of Confucianism with the more abstract ideas of gods and the afterlife of both Taoism and Buddhism. So when we look at the big picture, notice that the ideas of duty, ceremony, education were brought over from regular Confucianism, where Taoists and Buddhists added the meditation, the idea of seeking balance in their life, and the collection of knowledge. Also integrated was the idea of ancestor worship. Now, am I going to ask you what ideas came from each religion? No. The main thing here is that we're providing unity by creating a new belief system which combines the beliefs of the existing and diverse beliefs used in China. This did bring a great deal of unity because it pleased just about everybody. When you talk about legitimacy, you always start with the mandate of heaven. And essentially, the mandate of heaven is kind of like a sales pitch. When an emperor comes to power, they claim to have the blessing of heaven to rule. So the people wanting peace after that period of warfare, they begin to believe it. And life gets pretty good. Now, if there's many disasters, if there's warfare, famine, things like that, essentially that is a sign that the leader has lost the mandate, and it's literally okay for people to take out the leader. Now, this is very unique. This is something that is unique. There's not another legitimacy that really gives the people permission to take out their leader if they're not doing a good job. Another thing that the song added was this idea of the Middle Kingdom. Again, this is legitimacy, a selling point for people to be loyal. And essentially, this was the idea that China was the most elite, the best, the number one ranked state in the world at this time. Middle being key here. Heaven's above, everybody else is below. So the idea here is they have two things that are promoting their legitimacy. Not only do they have the mandate, but they're arguing that people need to be unified under the song, well, because they're the most advanced. When you talk about codes of conduct, the code of conduct remained pretty much Confucian. And what Confucianism does in its legal codes and how it demands people to behave is conformity, meaning that there's certain things that they called ancient rituals that people are supposed to do on a daily basis. For example, bowing to somebody who's superior to you, treating people with respect. There's also certain social conventions. This is relationships between people. And it really continues to focus on relationships and the responsibilities within their relationships. So we have this code of conduct that remains Confucius. When we talk about the bureaucracy, we're talking about the scholar gentry. We know that the Chinese bureaucracy was probably the most highly educated in the tapestry world. And essentially, they were very well skilled and could do their job very well. So the gentry, to earn their position, had to essentially pass a test. And the score on that test not only gave them a job, but also gave them a specific level of that job. So if you scored very high, you're going to be way up in the bureaucracy, working for the emperor. Whereas if you just barely passed, you're going to be probably out in some village working as a bureaucrat there. Now, the key thing here is this. The gentry became so powerful that they became a social class. This was a meritocracy, people getting jobs based on their abilities and not their birth. And essentially, this meritocracy created the social class. They became very powerful and second only to the aristocrats, the rich people. To promote peace, the Chinese did have a very large army. It's called the Banner Army. But they also used what's known as the tribute system. This is a picture of a group of people coming into an agreement under the tribute system. To define the tribute system, this was a system of diplomatic agreements between the Song Chinese and the surrounding states of East Asia to maintain peace. What the states got out of it was they could trade in China, and what the Chinese got was peace, but also access to certain resources. So we see here in this picture, there's a Chinese general, and we see an outsider, in this case a Mongol, performing the kowtow, the bow, to show the supremacy of the Chinese. The Mongols would get the chance to trade in China, while the Chinese got peace from the Mongols. Okay, a little bit of foreshadowing here. When the Mongols go on their rampage, part of the reason is the Chinese refuse to trade with them. This is an example of the kowtow even in modern days. This was a photograph that was taken in the late 19th century and shows a representative from Southeast Asia bowing to the Scholar Gentry officials when they meet with them. Another way that they promoted peace was the idea of granaries. Okay, taxes in Song China were paid in three ways. People had to work, pay money, and they also had to give a percentage of their grain that they grew, either grain in the north or rice in the south. So that grain was stored in these lids and later stored in these buildings. And in times of famine, in times of poverty, they could go to these buildings and get free food. So this is how the Song Chinese unified, ruled, and provided peace for their population. When we talk about innovations, we're focusing on not only agricultural innovations, but also innovations of production and transportation. So the one thing I want you to remember is China always has lots of people. This is a population pyramid that shows the Song dynasty of China. And as you can see, between the red and the blue, the further out to the right and left that line goes, the more people there are. You'll notice that there's a lot of people there. So the main focus of Chinese innovation is going to be agriculture. They built the Grand Canal. This was a connection between Chang'an in the north and Hangzhou in the south. And essentially, though it was built to kind of connect these two cities in trade, it was very much built between these two cities to move food. So in the north, we have grain such as millet being produced. And in the south, we have rice, the champa rice, which we'll talk about in a second. Okay, so the Grand Canal allowed the shipment of this food and avoided famine, thereby providing larger food sources for the people, especially in the north, and allowing for continued specialization. Champa rice, as I said before, was a biological transfer. This rice, which ripens twice as fast and provides two harvests, came to China through the tribute system from Vietnam. This doubled the food supply and allowed the Song Chinese to feed their population, thereby fulfilling the mandate of heaven, but also allow for greater specialization. When you talk about production, the Chinese produce luxury goods such as silk, iron, and porcelain. So, to bring in as much wealth as possible, the main innovation in production of luxury goods was proto-industrialization. This is defined as economic changes in which families and communities in rural areas use simple tools and water power to produce luxury goods, not for native consumption, but for trade. This produced a lot of silk, a lot of porcelain, and a lot of steel, and brought great wealth into China. Transportation technology was also very important. We have the magnetic compass to the left, and we have what's known as the junk boat, the big ship. The significance of the junk boat is that it was very durable, very big, but also had a rudder which was mounted in the back and gave it easy control. Focusing on trade, the Song Chinese traded both over the Silk Roads and the Indian Ocean system. The Silk Roads were connected to the city of Chang'an in the north, and the Indian Ocean system was connected through the city of Hangzhou in the south. The Grand Canal did provide a connection between those two cities, and there was some trade. But remember that the Grand Canal's original purpose was for food shipments. The Song dynasty traded silk, porcelain, and steel to the Muslim merchants in exchange for lots of silver and some gold. They're bringing in wealth. The Chinese weren't very interested in a lot from the outside world. So one of the things they did is they created the first example of paper money. This is called flying money. Flying money was essentially given the red stamp, meaning it was okayed by the government, and it has an amount on it, and you could carry this all the way to certain areas, buy the luxury goods, and then sell them for gold and silver. As you can see by this map, both the Tang and the Song dynasties were greatly connected through trade. So when we stop and we say, okay, what did we learn today? How did the Song dynasty of East Asia gain power? Well, they ended the warring states period and brought unity to China. And so they're maintaining power through creating a government that unifies, rules, and provides peace, supported innovation and the collection of knowledge, and then finally promoted trade. This brought great prosperity to their people and made the Song dynasty a very important Chinese dynasty in world history. So as you go on to the next videos, keep in mind that our last activity in this unit is going to be to generate some comparisons of these states.